right, Dental Venturers, we've made it to episode 11 of this limited series podcast on marketing tips and strategies for your startup. And again, going deeper than that. And right now we're talking about this internal branding, making sure you get your communication strategy correct. So today we're going to talk a little bit on episode 11 about patient experience. So I'm not talking about, your text messaging and reminder platforms for patients. I'm talking more about how you and your team talk to your patients so that the patients get the number one thing a patient wants. When I ask dentists, what do you think the number one thing a patient wants? And they say, well, they want to be comfortable. They want to feel comfortable here. And I agree with that. No doubt about that. But honestly, when you read bad reviews online, it's because somebody didn't have clarity. And a lack of clarity comes from a lack of communication. So we're going to kind of go through some of these heavy hitting things, start at the beginning of what's going to make you successful as you develop this team and really deliver a great patient experience from the communication side. So first, obviously, a very warm and welcoming environment. Make sure you do have a friendly staff. No need to market that. I love it when people are like, oh, just, when you market for me, just tell everybody we have a friendly staff. People assume you do, but do hire staff members that are courteous, compassionate, and most important, just attentive to the patient's needs, right? I mean, you can kind of hide some shortness and not necessarily being a people person just by kind of being attentive to the patient's needs. Comfortable waiting area. That's a big deal, not just because you've got people coming in. As a startup, I wouldn't want them sitting down at all. I'd want to get them right back. But if they have to wait out there, or if they've got a relative that came with them, make sure it's just a welcoming atmosphere, comfortable seating, soothing decor. Make sure they've got basic amenities like water, things to read, Wi-Fi. I know a lot of people are on their phone, but just make sure there's those types of things. I know it seems counterproductive to have a coffee maker in there, but just really try to do that part of it up. Next side of this goes with that friendly staff. Personalized greetings. Greet patients by name, make them feel valued from the second that they walk in. I used to love the sandwich boards that were like, hey, welcome patient, blah, 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 blah. And I think that rapidly became a HIPAA issue. But any way you can make them feel special, don't just give them a greeting, like a bag at the end. Oh, hey, here's your toothbrush and some of this. Really just kind of give them a card maybe in the beginning that's just saying, hey, we're glad you're here. Second part of this, we're going to get into the kind of clear communication. So patient education. Empower patients with knowledge about their oral health. Make sure you're clearly explaining their options for treatment and anything that they've got to do for preventive care measures. Just those three things, right? Knowledge about their health, the treatment options, preventative care measures. That's the biggest thing on patient education. Then you got to get into more transparency on pricing. So clearly communicate what this is going to cost, what insurance covers, and the payment options they have, because you do not want those misunderstandings. Bad Google reviews come from a lack of clarity about pricing, majority of them. Not only that, it kind of takes that trust you built all the way through the appointment and tears it down. So just really be transparent about your pricing. Active listening. I talked in a previous episode about, your EQ and that emotional intelligence side. A lot of that deals with active listening. You may know the answers and you may want to tell them something, but really just listen to what they're saying, encourage that open communication, and listen attentively to their concerns, their questions, and any feedback that they give you, and welcome that feedback. You need it desperately. Again, I'm trying to get through this quick because I know there's a lot to think about and a lot of this, but I just want to make sure that it's at the top of mind. Another thing people really appreciate patient-wise, efficient scheduling and how you manage their appointments. Online booking is crucial. So you've got to offer online appointment scheduling for convenience and accessibility. In the recent surveys I've seen, a lot of people don't even use it. They eventually just call. But online booking is crucial because some people don't want to call, but they need to know that they can book online if they need to. The other part of that is, if you're not careful, you will get a lot of no-shows from online bookings. So make sure your staff has at least one point of contact, whether that's through text, whether that's through a phone call. I would try to text, because if people didn't want to call you to schedule the appointment, they probably don't want you to call to follow up. So I just text and say, hey, have some really funny message to welcome to the practice, and then, have links to whatever paperwork they need to do there. But find out the way they like to communicate and communicate with them that way. Another thing with managing appointments is minimize wait times. Respect their time by minimizing those wait times, adhere to appointment schedules, kind of train them to do the same. Like I said, most of the startups I work with in the beginning, their goal is to not even have somebody sit down. They've got the time. Let's get them back. Appointment reminders, send those automated reminders via email or text message, the phone calls, whatever you need to do, because even though a lot of people don't confirm those or get back with you on them, it's just important that they know they're there. Some offices don't even mind, this, can we connect it to your Google Calendar so it shows up? Do whatever you need to do to make sure your patients know appointments coming up. This is a given, but think about what type of care you're going to give them. High quality care, high level of service, that's important. State of the art equipment. So invest, moderately in technology in the beginning, but make sure you've got some things there to kind of sell so that it's an efficient appointment. They're getting good outcomes. Maybe it even makes it a little faster for them, right? Continuing education, make sure your team stays updated so that they can talk through that with patients. I think that is a bigger deal than people give it. And then, we can talk about the clinical side with pain management and things like that. You'll know how to do that, but just understand patients need the clarity on the communications of how you're going to manage their pain. Personalize your treatment plans. I beat on behavioral assessments, the disc and value assessments, but here's another good reason why. People want to be talked to and even pitched in treatment plan in a way that matches their style. So if they're a high D on the disc, meaning they're just very assertive, very direct, very quick, if you hand them, and this goes for high eyes too, if you hand them like a 5 to 10 page treatment plan and with all this detail and all this stuff, you lost them. They're not going to do any of it. But a high C needs all that. So here's my suggestion when you do treatment plans, especially in the beginning. Bullet point the big things, make everything very matter of fact. Do that for financial conversations too, but then attach the details. Just say, hey, if you need any information on it, it's here, but here's what we talked about today. When, we're going to go ahead and get you scheduled on this date. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's what's covered by insurance. And we take a 20% deposit today. So however you're communicating that, whatever that is for you, just make sure it's clear, right? Follow-up care, provide post-treatment instructions, follow-up appointments, all that stuff. But, get creative with this if you have to. When you're shooting videos for your office, do some post-treatment instructions. Like they're half out of it, right? When they leave, if they don't have somebody back there with them, send them a video via text saying, and these can be generalized. If you know the procedure they're having that day, have the doctor shoot a video about the post-op instructions and then text it to them so they or a family member can look at it. And then this one goes without saying, exceptional customer service. I'm going to say customer here, right? Because until they come back, they're really not a patient. They were just a new patient that came in. So customer. Prompt responses. When patients inquire, this is going to kill your marketing more than anything else. This is a checklist item for them. You got their attention. And now they're either calling you, texting you, sending an appointment request because they're ready. If it takes you, a day to get back with them, you're probably going to lose them. So, get back to them within the hour if you can. So make sure that you definitely give them prompt responses. Work through everything with empathy and compassion. That's one thing that I would make sure that your staff knows, that there's going to be people coming in with anxiety or fear. They're there because you're new and they're hoping to find something new that will help them alleviate that anxiety or fear. And then as a leader, your job is to resolve issues promptly. So any type of complaints or feedback or concerns, get back in a timely and empathetic manner so that you don't have anybody writing bad reviews or ultimately just not satisfied. Because the one thing you don't want is it's not even the bad review, right? 1-star reviews are not the end of the world if you got a bunch of 5 stars and you respond properly. Where you get tore up is, in that moms group on Facebook where there's 8,500 moms and somebody's like, hey, who's a good dentist in the area? And they're like, well, not such and such. That's why you've got to be really great at taking care of any type of feedback from patients that isn't positive for you. On the feedback thing, this kind of the last thing I'll say as we move on here, and we'll get into a different section, but solicit and act on feedback. So patient surveys, make sure, you can do net provider scores, whatever you want to do, but conduct patient satisfaction surveys, gather that feedback and insight in their experience. Go over this with your team. Continuous improvement, use feedback to identify the areas that they can improve in, implement those changes, and enhance that patient experience. So we're going to talk about patient value journey, and really get into branding in our next section. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get on into that.